So I've been fairly confident about every single word change I've made thus far, and I believe that I've made massive improvements in a lot of them. Today's video, I think it's going to be more of a minor tweak and minor improvement in ways, but it also might detract from the word in a couple other ways. But we have some reasoning behind that. And it's not the same as me like destroying a word because I wanted to die, which I've done a couple times. Exhaluncuationality. And what I want to say about this process is that I'm not always going to be looking for the home run. I'm not trying to take a terrible word and make it into an incredible word every time. That's not necessary. Sure, I really strive for those. However, I gotta take a couple base hits every now and then. I gotta take an okay word and make it pretty solid. Like, that's acceptable too. What we're looking for in this series is consistency and improvement and entertainment. So that's what I'm going to strive for. And I think this word change is going to align with that. And I think I've got some great reasoning and topics to go with this word change. Although it's going from like a good word to a even better word. And that's about it on the value exchange and improvement side of things. So that's where we're at. Now, to talk about the word I'm changing today, it is popsicle. And popsicle, like I said, it's a pretty solid word. I, for one, really like that it is incorporating like the second half of icicle, which is another frozen object, which a popsicle is almost just like a flavored, almost pop flavored, you could say, food item like an icicle. Like that interpretation. So it almost is like a Wiplish word in its construction. Like I could see myself coming up with popsicle. It's not quite goofy enough, but it's combining concepts like I like to do. So popsicle is pretty solid. Plus like sickles are also sick. So I think that being basically a part of the word is pretty cool. Now, what I'm changing it to is actually something I didn't come up with. I heard this, it was on like a TikTok a couple months ago, and it was cracking me up absolutely. I don't know the exact person who said it, but what they said, I think the premise was like rejected names for popsicles. And their answer was Childo. And I absolutely loved that joke. Like Childo, oh my god, it got me. And it's so appropriate. You can envision it immediately. You're like, yeah, that fits. And recently, we made the Dildomo change, which can be described as a promo that moms get super excited to use. And I decided not to go with straight dildo because I didn't want it to be overly sexual for the word's usage and just to keep it a little bit more palatable for people. Childo, I didn't come up with originally, and there's some other elements going on with it that are complicated. Again, in an ideal language, or a widely used language, let's say, you probably don't want it to be overly controversial when the item itself is not. So, especially since this is something that like kids use, probably don't want to make that connection for an item that is mostly surrounding children. I'm going to change the word anyway, and here is why I'm thinking of doing so. Reason number one, Wiplish can be whatever the hell I want it to be. Like, does my language that I'm making for me and the people that choose to watch my videos and follow and just to do some goofy thing on my channel, do I have to make that work for every single person of every age and all that nonsense? I don't think so. I think I should make it for people that are going to enjoy it and will see the value in it. So Wiplish is going to be your own thing. Like, should I really hold myself back and be like, oh, I've got to make sure this works for small children at all times? No, that's not what I'm going for. So, Childo, you are taking the place of Popsicle. And another thing, even if my word changes are not going to be appropriate for every single age group out there, that's an issue that I think needs to be addressed. Because this is something that I've thought for a while, is that people are too unwilling and scared of bringing up challenging and daunting topics with their children, or just children in general. I really think that people being exposed to everything they can just about, and being more knowledgeable about both the great and disgusting and ugly things in the world, I think all of that knowledge that can be thrust onto a child in the right manner is a great thing. And if parents and teachers aren't able to talk about controversial or sexual or dangerous topics, then the kids are just going to hear it from somewhere else, and they're going to hear it later on in their progression as people where the information could have helped them before, especially because it is an opportunity as a parent or a prominent adult in someone's life to, one, build trust with the child that you're talking to, and also you can kind of control their first experience with an issue and make sure they get a well-rounded viewpoint of what it is. If you're like, oh, I'm not going to talk to my kid about sex until he's 14 or whatever, like, they're going to hear stuff from other people before that point. And you will not have control of what their initial viewpoint is, and you will not know what information they know. And also, they're not going to be comfortable talking to you with it because you have set it up as a parameter of things that are not okay to talk about between you and them in that relationship. So the kid's going to be less informed, and they're going to be less trusting and open with the adults around them. So I think being terrified of talking about controversial topics or just like sex, drugs, violence, whatever, just hiding that from kids and not being willing to talk to them about it is just going to hurt them in the long run and hurt relationships with other people because of that. So, should I be holding back making a word like childo just because kids like them? I don't think so. If a parent has to explain why it's called a childo, strap up or strap on, parent, and figure it out. So we covered some very broad and unrelated topics there, 2 popsicles, but the idea and the change spurred those arguments in my head and seemed related. So the childo change is rolling through. Looking forward to seeing some incredible comments. Now let's move on to our comment of the day from yesterday. And we're not going to have a lot to break down with this comment because I'm using this really almost as a PSA because Gavin said, my first comment disappeared. And if you look at the video that he posted this on, there is more comments on the video than are actually visually showing up. And that's for everyone as well as me, which is very odd, and I have noticed this with the Wippy Thoughts channel since I've started it. It's possible I was happening on my last channel too, but I just hadn't been posting as regularly, so I'm not sure. But on the creator side of YouTube, when you get a comment on one of your videos, usually they will be separated into published comments and then held for review. And that's supposed to include all of the comments that have been posted onto your videos. However, I've noticed a trend of my videos saying they have more comments than are showing up in the sum of those 2 tabs. And this is very odd because I'm pretty sure that I have no restrictions on my comments that are going to stop them from being published immediately. That's a setting that I've put on. However, there's still comments just going to the void, and I don't know why. So if you don't see your comment on the video, this is probably what's happening because I don't really go around deleting comments, or at least I haven't had a need to yet. So this is just kind of a PSA that this is happening, and I don't really know why. Because they're not going to like the spam folder of comments either, so it's very odd to me. Score for this comment is going to be a 6.66 out of 21. Now, on to the song of the day. It is Light of the Seven by Ramin Djawadi. Djawadi? It's something like that. I don't know. I've never actually said his name before. But he makes a ton of the music for Game of Thrones. This is probably my favorite song from the Game of Thrones series. I believe it's featured in the season 6 finale. And the sequence that happens when it's being played is maybe my favorite of the entire show. It is phenomenal. And this song is extremely intense. It builds a ton. It's just so epic and amazing. So it gets the spotlight today. Then for the video of the day, I decided to stick with a Game of Thrones theme. So for this one, we have Tyrion's trial, where he just kind of goes on a spiteful rampage of calling everybody out, which I really get some great enjoyment from seeing, and it's just fabulous acting. I will say that I think that's like a season 4-ish. And if you haven't seen Game of Thrones and want to, while also trying to avoid spoilers, there are probably going to be quite a few in that video, just a heads up. But if you don't care about spoilers, or you have seen the show, or you never intend on watching it, it's a good clip to watch. And that's gonna do it for the Daily Do. Peace out.